April 22, 2016. Dale Koenig's boots crunched on the gravel path as he made his way toward Cabin 3 of Cedar Hollow Lodge. The morning air still carried winter's bite despite the calendar's insistence that spring had arrived in Milford, Oregon. Pine needles scattered the path, and somewhere in the distance, a woodpecker's rapid-fire tapping echoed through the trees. Dale checked his clipboard, running a calloused finger down his list of tasks. As property manager for the remote guesthouse complex, preparing for the spring rental season was a ritual he performed for 7 years. The modest collection of 12 cabins nestled in the woods had always been a quiet place, popular with hikers and the occasional writer seeking solitude. But quiet places, Dale had learned, sometimes held the loudest secrets. Just a quick inspection, he muttered to himself, fishing through his keyring for the master key to Cabin 3. He frowned, noticing the cabin curtains were drawn. The cleaning service should have left them open last week. The key turned with unusual resistance. Dale pushed the heavy wooden door, and immediately, a sickly sweet odor hit him. The kind of smell you recognize even if you've never encountered it before. "Hello," he called out, receiving only silence in return. The cabin interior was dim, with thin slats of morning light cutting through the blinds. Dale's eyes adjusted slowly as he stepped inside, the floorboards creaking beneath his weight. Nothing seemed immediately amiss, the kitchenette was clean, the small sitting area undisturbed. But as he moved toward the bedroom, the odor intensified. Dale stood in the bedroom doorway, and his world narrowed to a single point of focus. Lying face down on the bed was a man in his 40s, fully dressed in dark jeans and a navy button-down shirt. One arm hung limply over the edge of the mattress, fingers curled as if grasping for something just out of reach. Dale didn't need to check for a pulse, the unnatural stillness told him everything. His gaze drifted to the nightstand, where a single item sat, an old leather-bound book, its spine cracked from use. Dale recognized it immediately, the guest ledger that had gone missing from the main office 2 months ago. Joanne had been furious, convinced one of the weekend staff had misplaced it. With trembling hands, Dale pulled out his phone and dialed 911. "I need police at Cedar Hollow Lodge," he said, voice steadier than he expected. "I've found a body." Detective Marcus Reeves arrived 40 minutes later, his unmarked sedan followed by 2 patrol cars and a medical examiner's van. At 53, Reeves carried himself with the tired confidence of someone who had seen too much yet remained curious about the world. He'd transferred to Milford 3 years earlier after 20 years with Portland PD, seeking what his ex-wife had mockingly called his Mayberry fantasy. "How long has the cabin been rented?" Reeves asked, snapping on latex gloves as he surveyed the scene. Dale shook his head. "That's the thing, it wasn't. We're closed until May 1st for seasonal maintenance. I was just doing inspection rounds." Reeves raised an eyebrow. "So no one should have been here at all?" "No one," Dale confirmed. "And I checked our booking system. No record of anyone in Cabin 3 since last November." The detective circled the bed carefully, studying the deceased without touching anything. "No signs of struggle," he noted. "No visible injuries. Almost looks like he laid down for a nap and never woke up." The medical examiner, Dr. Lin, nodded in agreement as she conducted her preliminary examination. "Rigor mortis has come and gone. Based on decomposition, I'd estimate he's been dead approximately 48 to 72 hours. Reeves directed his attention to the nightstand. "And this ledger, you said it belongs to the lodge?" "Yes," Dale replied. "It's our old guest register from before we switched to digital. Been missing for months." Reeves carefully opened the leather cover. Inside, in neat, consistent handwriting, were dozens of entries, names, dates, and single-word notations. Hallberg, 2012, Exit M, Cruise, 2013, Clean, Drescher, 2015, Fail. And at the bottom of the last page, a final entry. Langston, 2016, Close. Langston, Reeves muttered, glancing back at the deceased. Could be our John Doe. Officer Torres entered the bedroom, holding an evidence bag. Found this in the main room, detective. Duffel bag with some cash, about $4,000, a burner phone that's never been activated, and this book. Reeves examined the copy of Albert Camus, The Stranger. The pages were dog-eared, with handwritten notes crowding the margins. "We are all special cases," Reeves read aloud from one of the underlined passages. Next to it, in tight, controlled handwriting, "and exceptions make poor examples." Dr. Lynn looked up from her examination. "Detective, no wallet or ID on the body. Just keys to a vehicle we haven't located yet." Reeves nodded. "Get photos, fingerprints. Let's find out who our mystery man is." He turned to Dale. "I need to speak with the owner." Joanne Trask arrived 30 minutes later, her silver SUV kicking up dust as it came to an abrupt stop in the parking area. At 62, she projected an image of rustic elegance, silver hair pulled back in a tight bun, expensive hiking boots, and a look of practiced concern as she approached. "This is dreadful, simply dreadful," she said, clasping and unclasping her hands. "Nothing like this has ever happened at Cedar Hollow before." Reeves watched her closely. "Ms. Trask, are you familiar with this ledger?" When presented with the book, Joanne's eyes widened momentarily before her expression settled into confusion. "That old thing. Must have been left by a previous caretaker. I haven't seen it in years." Dale, standing nearby, frowned. "Joanne, that's the ledger that went missing from the office safe in February. You were upset about it, remember? Said it had historical value." Color drained from Joanne's face. I don't recall that specifically. We have so many old records." "The safe that only you have the combination to," Dale added, his voice quiet but pointed. Reeves noted the tension with interest. "Ms. Trask, do any of these names mean anything to you?" He pointed to the ledger entries. Joanne glanced at the page and quickly looked away. "No. As I said, that must be from before my time. I purchased Cedar Hollow 15 years ago, but some of these records predate me." "The dates don't," Reeves observed. "These entries go from 2012 to this year." Before Joanne could respond, a forensic technician approached. "Detective, we've got preliminary ID from fingerprints. Subject is Victor Langston, 47. Reported missing from Sacramento 3 years ago." 3 days later, Detective Reeves sat in his cramped office at the Milford Police Department, surrounded by printouts and digital files. Victor Langston's life was spread across his desk: employment records, missing persons report, financial transactions. The picture they painted was peculiar. Victor had been a federal contractor, specializing in cybersecurity for various government agencies. By all accounts successful and well-regarded until 2013, when colleagues reported increasingly erratic behavior. He resigned abruptly, citing health concerns. 3 months later, he disappeared. His wife, Elena Langston, had reported him missing after finding their joint bank accounts emptied. In her statement, she claimed Victor had been experiencing what she called a breakdown and had talked about going off the grid. No note was left, no explanation given. Reeves picked up the autopsy report that had arrived that morning. Toxicology showed traces of pentobarbital in Langston's system, a powerful sedative sometimes used in assisted suicides. The dosage was small, inconsistent with self-administration, and Dr. Lynn had noted it would have been enough to sedate but not kill. Cause of death was officially listed as cardiac arrest. A knock on his door interrupted his thoughts. Officer Torres entered, carrying a coffee cup and a file folder. "You're going to want to see this," she said, placing the folder on his desk. "We ran the names from the ledger through various databases. Most are aliases or lead nowhere, but we got hits on a few." Reeves flipped through the pages, his frown deepening. 3 deceased, all within a year of their dates in the ledger. Natural causes, supposedly. And this one, Torres pointed to a name halfway down the list. Martin Eller. Currently in federal witness protection. When our liaison contacted the U.S. Marshals, they immediately moved him and refused to comment. Reeves leaned back in his chair. What the hell was going on at Cedar Hollow Lodge? There's more, Torres continued. I tracked down a former employee, kitchen staff from 2012 to 2014. She was reluctant to talk officially, but off the record, she told me the lodge used to be rented out for special retreats several times a year. What kind of retreats? Always the same pattern. Last-minute booking, cash payment, complete privacy requested. A private consulting group, she said, though she never got a company name. They'd take over the entire property for 3 to 4 days, minimal interaction with staff. Reeves tapped his fingers on the desk thoughtfully. Any description of the participants? Mixed ages, mostly men, professional types. She said they seemed like government people, based on how they carried themselves. Always polite, but distant. The pieces weren't fitting together in a way Reeves liked. He picked up his phone and dialed a number he rarely used, an old academy classmate who now worked for the FBI. Jim, it's Marcus Reeves. I've got something unusual here that might interest you. 2 hours later, Reeves found himself sitting in his car outside Cedar Hollow Lodge, watching as the rain began to spatter his windshield. His conversation with Jim had been short and strange. Send me what you have, Jim had said, his tone unnaturally formal. You know something about this, Reeves had pressed. A long pause. Marcus, some advice from an old friend, document everything, then step back. This one goes higher than you think. Now, as darkness fell over the lodge, Reeves couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. He started his car and began the drive back to town, unaware of the black SUV that pulled out several hundred yards behind him. The next morning, Reeves arrived at his office to find 2 men in suits waiting. They introduced themselves as Agents Miller and Dawson from the FBI, though their credentials flashed too quickly for Reeves to verify. We understand you're investigating an incident at Cedar Hollow Lodge, Miller said, his face betraying nothing. That's right, Reeves replied, measuring his words. Found a body, identified as Victor Langston. Suspicious circumstances. Dawson nodded. We'll be taking over the case. National security implications. I have the paperwork here. Reeves accepted the documents but made no move to open them. Funny, I just spoke with a contact at the bureau yesterday. He didn't mention a formal takeover. Different department, Miller said smoothly. Your contact wouldn't have been in the loop. And the ledger? Reeves asked. All materials related to the case should be transferred immediately, Dawson replied. Reeves leaned back in his chair. It's already been sent to our state crime lab for analysis. A flicker of annoyance crossed Miller's face. We'll arrange for retrieval. After they left, Reeves sat motionless, staring at the business cards they'd left behind. Standard FBI cards, correct format, proper seals. Still, something felt wrong. He picked up his phone and called the bureau's regional office directly. I'm trying to verify 2 agents who visited me today, he explained to the receptionist. Miller and Dawson. After a brief hold, the receptionist returned. I'm sorry, sir. We have no agents by those names currently assigned to that office. A chill ran down Reeves' spine. He immediately called the crime lab. The ledger from Cedar Hollow Lodge, has anyone attempted to retrieve it today? Yes, the technician confirmed. 2 FBI agents just left with it about 20 minutes ago. They had the proper authorization. Reeves hung up, his mind racing. He grabbed his jacket and keys, heading for his car. Before he could reach it, his phone rang, an unknown number. Detective Reeves, a voice said, unfamiliar and deliberately modulated. You seem like a decent man who cares about his community. That's admirable. But you're walking a dangerous path. "Who is this?" Reeves demanded. "Someone offering good advice. The matter at Cedar Hollow is closed. Pursuing it further puts you and others at risk. Victor Langston made his choices long ago. Are you threatening me?" A soft laugh. "No, detective. I'm saving you. Check your email." The call ended. Reeves opened his email on his phone to find a new message with no sender information. Inside was a single file, Elena Langston's original missing persons report, but not the version he'd seen. This one contained additional notes. Subject is believed to have absconded with sensitive materials. Subject had security clearance level 4 at Sentinel Operations. Known associates include 3 persons of interest in ongoing surveillance operations. Recommendation: monitor but do not actively pursue. Attached was a photo, Victor Langston at what appeared to be a protest, standing next to a woman Reeves recognized from intelligence briefings, a known whistleblower who had fled to Russia after exposing a classified surveillance program. Reeves' phone rang again, this time, his captain. "Marcus, I just got a call from the feds. The Cedar Hollow case is officially closed. Suicide, they're saying." "Captain, that's not. It's done, Marcus. Orders from way above my pay grade. And yours." That evening, Reeves sat on his porch, nursing a whiskey and watching the sunset. His case files were spread across the table, copies he'd made before surrendering the originals. The pieces still didn't fit. The ledger entries haunted him. Exit. Clean. Fail. Close. What did they mean? Were they operations? Assessments? And why would Langston, a man who had vanished 3 years earlier, suddenly appear dead in a remote cabin with that ledger? His phone lit up with a text from an unknown number, Cabin 3. Midnight. Against his better judgment, Reeves found himself driving back to Cedar Hollow Lodge just before midnight. The property was dark, with only security lights illuminating the main building. He parked a quarter-mile down the road and approached on foot, gun holstered but ready. Cabin 3 was dark and sealed with police tape. Reeves circled it cautiously, seeing no signs of activity. As he checked his watch, 11:58 p.m., the porch light suddenly flickered on. Reeves drew his weapon, approaching slowly. The door to Cabin 3 was ajar, though he was certain it had been locked. He pushed it open with his foot, sweeping his flashlight across the interior. The cabin was empty, clean since the investigation. On the bed where Langston's body had been found lay a single manila envelope. Inside was a handwritten letter and a small USB drive. Detective Reeves. By now you understand that some truths remain hidden for a reason. Cedar Hollow was one of several transition sites, places where people could disappear to become someone new or where some could face their final judgment. The ledger was our record, each entry a life transformed or ended. Victor was one of us until he wasn't. 3 years ago, he learned something that changed him. He stole documents, threatened exposures. We let him run, hoping he'd come to his senses. He returned to Cedar Hollow voluntarily, believing he could negotiate. He was wrong. The USB contains what he discovered. Use it wisely, or not at all. Either way, this ends now. Some doors, once opened, cannot be closed. The letter was unsigned. Reeves pocketed the USB drive, his heart pounding. As he turned to leave, the porch light flickered off, then on again. The door, which he had left open, slowly swung shut. He reached for the handle, but it wouldn't turn, locked from the inside. Back in his car, Reeves' hands shook as he examined the USB drive. His laptop sat on the passenger seat, waiting. Did he dare look? Whatever Langston had discovered had cost him his life. Before he could decide, headlights appeared in his rearview mirror, a vehicle approaching fast from the direction of the lodge. Reeves started his car and pulled onto the road, watching as the vehicle behind him gained speed. His phone rang, unknown number again. Last chance, detective, the modulated voice said. Walk away. Reeves ended the call without responding and pressed the accelerator. The headlights behind him grew smaller as he put distance between them. 2 weeks later, the case of Victor Langston was officially closed. Suicide, the report stated. The mysterious ledger was never mentioned. Cedar Hollow Lodge reopened for the season, though Cabin 3 remained vacant despite being listed as available. Joanne Trask sold the property 6 months later and moved to Arizona. Dale Koenig stayed on as manager under the new ownership, though he refused to enter Cabin 3 again. He told the housekeeping staff that the cabin was undergoing renovations, a lie they tacitly accepted. Detective Reeves requested a transfer to another department, eventually leaving law enforcement altogether. His neighbors in his new town in Washington state knew him as a quiet man who kept to himself. The USB drive remained hidden, unopened, in a safety deposit box in a bank just outside Milford. And on some nights, usually around 2 a.m., the porch light at Cabin 3 flickers on, even though the power to that cabin has been disconnected. The lock sticks, as if recently opened from the inside, though no one has stayed there in years. Locals tell stories about Cedar Hollow Lodge now, about the man who died there and the secrets he took to his grave. Most dismiss them as rural legends, ghost stories to scare tourists. But occasionally, someone will notice unmarked vehicles parked near the turnoff to the lodge late at night. And once a year, on April 22, a solitary figure can be seen walking the perimeter of Cabin 3, lingering longest at the bedroom window. The ledger itself has never been seen again, though rumors persist of its existence in some secured government facility, its entries continuing to grow, names, dates, and single-word verdicts on lives that officially never ended. Exit. Clean. Fail. Close. And beyond the lodge, in cities across the country, people still disappear, some running from their past, others erased from it. Most are never found. Some reappear years later under different names, with no memory of their former lives. A few, like Victor Langston, return to where it all began, seeking answers or absolution. The truth about Cedar Hollow Lodge remains elusive, a mystery with too many missing pieces. But sometimes, in the darkest hours of the night, when the porch light of Cabin 3 casts its glow into the surrounding woods, one can almost imagine that the truth is there, waiting to be discovered by someone brave enough, or foolish enough, to seek it out.